Let me move on with Dr. Ayesha.
These days, there's a new narrative in the country that economic security and national security are interlinked, very closely intertwined. You can't have one without the other. And for me, when I'm saying national security, I really don't mean just the territorial security of Pakistan. For me, national security means the security and well-being of the people who live in Pakistan, the 207 million people, according to the 2017 census. How good an opportunity do they have to improve their lives and properties? How good an opportunities do they have for their kids to prosper and for them to improve their standard and quality of life? And do they have access to what they need to maintain a subsistence level of development level or not? Are very important questions. Now, when we are talking about, and these days the 8 o'clock talk shows and 7 o'clock talk shows are full of all the economic jargons. And let me also add, without offending anyone, half of the time people don't even know what they're really talking about, and there's big discussion. And maybe I can take the liberty of saying, particularly from the political representative side, that is now currently my constituency, though I'm proud of being a policy analyst and academic more so than that. See, why is it important? GDP, Kaisar has just indicated, it indicates how much income is being generated, how much you are earning, what is your purchasing power, what is your level of income that is prevailing, how much do you take home to provide for your family and to maintain a quality of life for yourself and your kids. It's important. But what is equally important, as he has emphasized, is that how is it distributed? Is growth taking place to make rich richer, or the poor poorer? Or do we have a situation in which growth is creating jobs, and growth is more broad-based and, like we call, more inclusive in nature? It's creating jobs. It's in the agricultural sector where the elasticity of employment, where a lot of people are employed. It's in a small-scale manufacturing sector where a lot of people are employed. If it's in export-oriented industry where a lot of people are employed, and so on and so forth. If that is the kind of a job, that is the kind of a growth which is job-creating and not jobless, then it penetrates and it affects positively all the quality of the life of all Pakistanis, more or less. But if not, if it's kind of a growth that we sometimes have seen in Pakistan as well, and is in the other countries, neighboring countries, then it doesn't penetrate, the trickle down doesn't take place, the expression goes. In the current account deficit, we have heard this so many times in these days. Current account surplus is taking place without realizing that it's just a flip for a month or two. It'll come back. The government comes on the television and says, we have generated current account surplus, and wow, we all clap. Something great has happened. It's temporary. Why? Why is it affecting the quality of lives of people? I think Pakistanis should know how is it exactly affecting their lives, more or less. See, if your current account is in deficit, that means that your demand for your dollars is more, or your expenditure of dollars is more than your income of dollars. This will directly lead to the decline in the value of Pakistani rupees. There will be depreciation. And we have talked about depreciation endlessly in this country without really seeing what's happening and why and where. So when it affects depreciation, why does it affect an ordinary man? Well, because whether you like it or not, we are a food importing country. And this is the catastrophe. One time cereal bread basket of the subcontinent is now importing wheat. It is now importing sugar. It is importing edible oil. These are consumption items of ordinary Pakistanis. And if you're importing them at a very high price, your rupee is low, has depreciated, then it will be passed on. Then petroleum, we import petroleum. Any hike in the cost of petroleum is passed on to ordinary Pakistanis. Then farmers, we import fertilizers. Any increase in fertilizer prices will be passed on to the farmers. So likewise in production, so many of our inputs are imported, even exports. Believe it or not, one of the reasons why exports do not increase so rapidly is that almost 40 to 50% of our imports are because they are inputs into our exports. So when inputs become very expensive, your exports become expensive, and it negates thing. And there are many other areas which I can very quickly go through. Budget deficit, he's already elaborated. For me, budget deficit, if it increases, why Pakistanis will be affected is that 75% of your taxes, realistically speaking, effectively is indirect. It is borne by ordinary Pakistanis because it's indirect taxes. Even if it's income tax, it's of a withholding nature, which basically is indirect taxes. It's passed on to the consumers. So when you have deficits, government goes in for higher tax mobilization. What does it tax more? Indirect taxes. Look at what the IMF program is doing now. If we go ahead and accept what IMF is saying to withdraw the sales tax exemptions and so on and so forth, 400 billion will be generated extra. How? Mostly through passing it on to ordinary Pakistanis in their consumption items. And also very importantly, the development expenditure goes down. And when development expenditure goes down, public sector projects shut down, and we have direct joblessness because of that. And secondly, indirect joblessness because the infrastructure breaks down and the private sector doesn't come in to put in money in Pakistan. Investments go down. There's no infrastructure, no investments from abroad. And of course, all of this leads to debt. And debt and its inflationary effect is something which I think all Pakistanis by now really know. And we really need to be very clear on this, that the way the debt is increasing at this point. Dr. Bengali was just telling you, it's just we are not putting in borrowing for development anymore. Let me tell you, we are borrowing to run the government at this point of time. Or let me also tell you that we are borrowing to almost finance 40% of your defense expenditure. The only expenditure that our revenue generates, fully finances, is our debt servicing. Once we take care of that, which is interest payment and debt repayment, only 40% of defense, 60% of defense is financed through our own revenue generation. The rest of all that happens is through borrowing. So look at the situation we are in and see why would it not affect the ordinary Pakistanis, because we borrow, we bring inflation, we borrow externally, we are indebting ourselves, and we are going deeper into debt trap. And you Pakistanis, we all of us are heavily indebted not only for this generation, but we are leaving a very big load for our future generations also. And I'm not sitting here and just criticizing the politicians. The mess we have made with this country for 70 years is no one man's job. It's not just the politicians. It's the bureaucrats, it's the establishment, I'm sorry, it's the private sector as well, and everyone, I would turn around and say, have played their contribution in this. And what do we need to move forward? Well, if you realize that this is the mistake that we have made, what we need is for people to sit down, realize that they have played havoc with the economy of Pakistan. In the 60s, we were a role model. In the 200s, we are about to default every 2 years. And in the morning, we were talking about an IMF program on an average every 2 years, a crisis situation. So what is so fundamentally going wrong with what we are doing? We're all not sitting together and making the right policies. The bureaucrats are not implementing the right policies. The establishment is having its own role to play in those policy makings to suit itself. The private sector wants to take its money outside and not invest here adequately. And, well, we, the NGOs and think tanks, I was one of them, we also are not playing our role. We're not playing our roles because we are also, not thinking about our own interests when we are saying this. We need a new social contract in this country. In the morning, Kaisar was saying, let's have a, what was the expression you used? Baghawat. He was talking about Baghawat. I'm saying, let's all sit down together. And for the sake of the 207 million people, think कि हमारे interest बाद में, Let's increase the size of the pie, and then we can have a bigger share in it. So we need to do that, and we haven't been able to do this. I regretfully admit where I went wrong, and I'm still not wrong. I'm not heard in the assembly. We have no forums because this is not the political narrative these days.